Hey, what is up you guys? Today I am talking about the worst classic books that I have ever read. So personally, I think I'm quite a good judge of books. I don't really read that many books I don't like because I feel like before I even pick up, I know whether I'm going to like it or not. So normally the ones that I end up not liking are ones that I kind of just impulse pick up from the library or whatever. So that's the books I'm going to talk about today. So before we get started, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It would really help out the channel, and I upload every single week. The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick is an alternative history book published in 1962 and set in a world where Japan and Germany have won World War II and they have taken over the US. So it follows some people, I think just one man, based inside the US in this time. I originally read this in March last year, so I don't actually remember that many details of this story. But what made me dislike this book was the way that it was written. So Dick uses a very kind of offensive tone when he's using the characters because he's written it in a way where it feels like someone who is trying to be racist is imitating a stereotypical Asian person trying to speak English, if that makes sense. So when you're reading it, it's very strange to read, and also just comes across now in 2020 as offensive personally. So I just found it really difficult to get through the book because of this, and honestly it was annoying. Like every single time the characters were speaking, it was hard to read, to be honest. It also took me a long time to get invested into any of the characters in this story because personally I just didn't think any of them were that interesting. So the lack of interesting characters along with the offensive way that they were speaking was just not a good match to make a good book, personally, in my opinion. However, this book is seen as being one of the best sci-fi books from this period, so I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I just didn't really enjoy the book for this reason. This second book is one that I know for a fact that I am in the minority because this is a really, really popular book. So One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey was released in 1962 as well. I see a pattern. And it is set in a psychiatric ward ran by a nurse who is hated and feared by all the patients. A new patient, Randall McMurphy, is admitted into the hospital one day, and he sets out to disrupt the hospital and the nurse and the patients just as much as possible. The book is seen through the eyes of the narrator, who is a Native American man who has been in the hospital for years and pretends that he is deaf and can't speak, but this is actually a lie. He's just doing this so that no one will disturb him. So personally, I thought this book again was offensive in its portrayals of mental illness and mental hospitals, and also it was just blatantly racist. I think with this and The Man in the High Castle, it's rather that the book itself comes across as racist in my opinion, rather than just characters acting racist. Because if characters are acting racist, that's not really a reflection on the author. You're allowed to write racist characters, and if a character is racist and it's explored why, this can be an interesting point. But again, with this, I just felt like the book itself came across as offensive. The hero of the story, McMurphy, says a lot of really bad things about the orderlies in the hospital, who are known as the Black Boys, and it was just really uncomfortable to read. So every single time, these are not good characters, first of all, so they're always talked about in a negative way. But on top of being talked about in a negative way because of their actions, you're constantly being reminded that it's the Black Boys, and then also they use more offensive derogatory terms to refer to them as well. And I just thought it was really unneeded, and it didn't add anything to the story, and it just made me dislike the main character, McMurphy. Another reason I didn't like McMurphy is he comes across as misogynist, but in this sense I will say that it is the character itself, and it doesn't come across as the book the same way the racism does. So like I said, there's a difference between a character being away and the book itself being away, and for the misogynist part, it is just the character himself, I think. But again, I just found it difficult to read about this character who is meant to be the hero of this story, who is just not good. He's racist, he's misogynist, he's faking being mentally ill, I'm pretty sure, as a plot point, and I just think it was really badly handled. And the fact that he's misogynist isn't even explored in the story, it's just a fact of the story, and it just doesn't make you want to root for the character at all. So for this reason, I really disliked this book, and I personally just didn't understand why it's seen as being such an amazing classic, because there was no point during it I thought it was an amazing book. The third book I'm going to talk about today is Maggie Cassidy by Jack Kerouac, released in 1959, and this is a largely autobiographical look at Kerouac's early life growing up in 1930s America. So the main focus of this story is on his relationship with a girl who, for the book, he calls Maggie Cassidy, and it's meant to be a love story between the two of them. Kerouac is famous for being part of the Beat Generation, so he's a very well-known poet, and this does reflect in the book, but in my opinion it's in a negative way. So I found his writing style really hard to follow. At times there were whole pages where there was no punctuation, no full stops, just like a full page of text, and I just thought it was really unnecessary and really made it hard to follow the story. What I also didn't like is that when the characters spoke, he gave them all like accents, so it was really hard to read this over and over again, especially when the characters were having dialogue and conversations between each other. There was some points where it was the main character, Jack, because it's autobiographical, and he's with his friends, and there's maybe like 4 of them, and they're all speaking all at once, but the lack of punctuation and the fact that they all have these accents written into the story are just like really, it's so hard to follow. I had no idea what was going on at any point. So the characters in this book as well, so like I said, there's scenes where there's like 4 friends. None of them are their own character. They're all like really lacking characterization, and so is every character in the entire book. And I think that if you wrapped all 4 of his friends, I think it's 4, it's been a while, if you wrapped all of the characters into one main friend character, the story wouldn't change at all. They have no personalities of their own. There's nothing distinctive about them that separates them from each other. They're all just his friends, and they all talk the same and they all act the same. And for this reason, I just really thought the book was hard to read. I almost DNF'd this book back when I read it, but it was only like 200 pages, so I was like, okay, I'll just keep reading, and I kept myself, like forced myself to read to the end. However, if I was going to read like this and it was a longer book, I would have DNF'd it for sure, because I did not enjoy it. For a romance book as well, Maggie, the relationship with her was really undeveloped. It was very surface level. Whenever he talked about her and how much he was in love with her, the only thing he ever talked about was her looks. You were meant to buy into this being like this great romantic love story, and them being like partners for life, soulmates, and he never gave you any reason to expect this. He literally only would have talked about her looks, and when he did talk about her personality, it was never in a good way. Like, she did not come across well at any point in the story, from what I remember. Again, I think I read this back in like March or April or something like that last year, so it's been a while. But I just remember like thinking, why am I even investing any time reading this relationship, which there's nothing to it. It was just a very basic love story, if you can even call it that, with 2 pretty unlikable characters and their unlikable friends who have no personality. And those were the 3 worst classics that I have read so far. Like I said, I think I'm pretty good at just choosing books and knowing if I'm going to like them or not before I pick them up. And 2 of these, Maggie Cassidy and The Man in the High Castle, were both books that I pretty much just picked up on a whim because I seen them in the library and I thought the covers looked interesting. So that pretty much says to me that I should not continue to do that in the future. Although I have had some success doing things like that before. I've just picked up random books and ended up really liking them. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing, and please leave a like. And if you're reading these books, let me know your thoughts below. Especially, I know for a fact I'm in the minority with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because a lot of people love that book. It's really highly regarded. And when I was looking on Goodreads for it, like after I read it, I was surprised. Like, I felt like most people didn't share my opinion. But that's what makes reading fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.